Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapad-kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, and welcome again back to the Sri Madhya Lila classes. So, we will be continuing our discussion on the Damodar pastime as found in Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, after completing our short study on the Damodarashtakam. Again, we have not even exhausted all of my notes on Damodarashtakam, let alone the grand, deep realizations that are there for actual devotees who study this great text. Just to give an idea, we haven't really done a comprehensive Damodarashtakam study. I just wish to go through them at a not too slow pace. Not that any pace is too slow, but at a pace that will be, how to put it, maybe a little hard to follow the overall flow. I wanted to keep a certain momentum with the Damodarashtakam classes, and by keeping that momentum, the overall picture of the Damodarashtakam could be captured. I don't want to think that the past few weeks of Damodarashtakam classes have been exhaustive in any way. As I said, I ended up summarizing a lot of my notes that we ended up not getting into from my study of the Damodarashtakam. And again, who am I? Just one small spirit soul who barely knows what direction is up and what direction is down. So we can imagine what great knowledge there is in this Damodarashtakam, what great untapped conclusions and siddhanta that we have not yet discussed. So, like that, we can understand something of the voluminous depths of the Shri Shri Damodarashtakam. But I thought we could also, upon concluding the Damodarashtakam study, which was not comprehensive, not exhaustive, almost just to dip your toes in, to get an idea of what it is like to study bhajans. Even though Damodarashtakam is not a bhajan, but all bhajans can be analyzed in this way. Maybe actually we'll do Prema Bhakti Chandrika classes, Narottam Das Thakur's poetic works. Maybe we'll do some classes on that after this. But anyways, just to give an idea of that, and so I thought what might be enriching is then to speak a little bit from Bhagavatam, the Damodar pastime. So I'm hoping we will speak a little bit more today, and then we may even speak a little bit more on Monday, and hopefully we will conclude on Monday so that it is all wrapped up nicely on Kartik. But if the need arises, then also Tuesday and Wednesday we will discuss further. Anyways, without much more ado, we will orient ourselves again in the flow of the Bhagavatam. And we were discussing, actually we we only discussed very little. We discussed a small amount of the Damodar pastime. In terms of shlokas, we maybe got like 3 shloks into the into the chapter. There's lots of depth in all of Bhagavatam, but especially in these Vraj Lila pastimes. So then we were discussing about how in anticipation of Indra Puja and of course in the observance of Diwali, Deepavali, actually better we say Deepavali, the Sanskrit name, that is the more Vedic name. In preparation for this, we have heard that Mother Jashoda's servants, her maid servants, who normally were making the yogurt, they had all left the house. Or rather they were in the house, but they had not made themselves available to produce the yogurt as normal. And this was almost good, because Mother Jashoda had a special desire in her heart. She was thinking, my son Krishna, there is a name they have for him. There is a special name they have for Krishna. Makanchor. We have heard this name, He is always stealing butter. He's always stealing the wonderful dairy products of everyone else. Is it because what we have at home is so terrible? So Mother Jashoda was wondering like this. And so she thought, well, this is a wonderful opportunity today. Because today I will have the opportunity to go and make this myself. Because all of the other maidservants are anyways busy. And I will do so with some of the nicest cows that are available in all of Vraj. She did like this. And so she went. And she began then, filled with maternal love, she began to prepare that yoga preparation. And so while doing so, she began singing, composing in poetry, these wonderful songs narrating the wonderful childhood pastimes of Sri Bhagavan Krishna. And narrating these pastimes constantly and singing them, she completely became filled and filled. And by doing so, as she sung them, the yogurt became more and more and more delicious. Why? We were discussing before that the breast milk that Mother Jashoda has, it is not made again of whatever substance we have of milk in this domain. No. Her breast milk is Vatsalya Prem, condensed ecstatic love in the mood of a parent. Why? Because milk in the material sense does not feed Krishna. Krishna does not care for material milk. Krishna cares for devotion. And so the more she sang, as she was churning, as she was preparing this yogurt preparation, as she sang and sang and sang, it became more and more relishable to Krishna, because Mother Jashoda, she was relishing Krishna consciousness. And relishing Krishna consciousness, her devotion, her love for Krishna grew deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And growing deeper and deeper and deeper, she began to appreciate him more and more and more and more. And because of this, the relishability of this yogurt grew immensely. So as she was singing all these songs and so wonderfully capturing all the pastimes, and how many pastimes does Krishna have? Again, Namo Radhikaya, Tvadiya Priyaya, Namo Nanta Lilaya, Devaya Tubhyam. What is Sri Krishna? The Supreme Personality, who is called Deva, the enactor of beautiful pastimes. If he is the enactor of beautiful pastimes, he's not just the enactor of beautiful pastimes. He's the enactor of Ananta Lila. infinite pastimes. There are uncountable pastimes that Krishna manifests, and therefore there are uncountable words that may be used to glorify the immaculate beauty of all of those pastimes. Even one moment of seeing Krishna, could not be worshipped with all of the words that exist in the world. With all the words that are in existence, spoken millions of times, they would not even be able to glorify the dust that is on Krishna's feet in even one glance, let alone for years and years seeing his immense beautiful pastimes. If Krishna did not desire for any other pastime to be manifested further, Mother Jashoda could have sung for eternity. But she did not, because Krishna, he saw as she was singing, and her maternal bhakti, it was increasing more and more and more. Her breasts began to fill with that Vatsalya prem, that intense maternal affection. And they began to fill more and more and more and more. And as they filled more and more and more, Krishna, who had just woken up in the morning, and we know, I mean, I'm still a little child. Whenever I wake up, I'm always hungry. Back when the temple was open, I'd get up for Mangal Arti. Sometimes even in Mangal Arti, I'd start meditating on the Mangal Arti Mahaprasad, the Mahaprasad sweet. So Krishna, he is the enjoyer. How much greater would his appetite be? How much stronger? So when Krishna wakes up, he feels very hungry. He wants to eat. And then seeing all of the milk that was being created, he knew what that milk was. That milk was bhakti. And he became very hungry to taste it. And so then what happened? Tam stanya kama asadya mathantim jananim harihi grihitva dadhimanthanam nyashadhat pritimavahan. While she was churning the butter, Krishna, who had this intense desire to taste her devotion in the form of her milk, he grabbed the rod. And grabbing this rod, Krishna, he prevented Mother Jashoda from continuing her churning. He caused that churning to cease. And the ceasing of this churning has quite a few purports. Hari Sauri, who is also referred to as Hari Suri, is one of the great commentators on Srimad Bhagavatam. His commentary does not actually extend for the entirety of the Bhagavatam. In fact, it doesn't even extend for the entirety of the 10th canto. He only really commentates upon Vraj Lila. But where he does comment upon Vraj Lila, he comments extensively. And he comments giving explanations and internal meanings for almost everything in it. And so in his commentary upon this, he makes a very clear point. As Krishna grabs Mother Jashoda's churning rod, and he prevents her from churning, there are quite a few, again, purports to this activity. Firstly, and this is the main one which Hari Suri brings out in his commentary. This is, by the way, a bona fide commentator. Maybe some of us have heard of Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Hari Sauri Prabhu. He was named after Hari Suri. So by doing this, we must understand, what does the churning rod represent? Mother Jashoda, if we hear her descriptions in Bhagavatam, how she is being described as working. There are all sorts of descriptions. Shaumam vasaha pritu kati tate bibhrati sutra nadham putra sneha snutta kucha yugam jata kampam chasubruhu raja varksha shrama bhuja chalat kankan nau kundale cha svinam vaktram kabara vigalan malati nirmam mantha. This description describes the sweat that was coming from her, Remember, we were describing yesterday the many flowers that were falling from her hair as she was laboring away in the churning, again, of this yogurt. So much effort was being put in. Again, this is effort of devotion, and is no great labor. Or rather, it is a great labor, but it is no labor that is a torture to perform. But the churning rod can often also represent labor that is not favorable. How many people truly enjoy the labor of the world? If there was no economic incentive, very few people would do the work they do. Very few people would engage in these sorts of activities. And yet, they do. And this churning rod represents that. It represents the intense endeavor of karmic activities. Not necessarily even for economic incentive, but for all sorts of other things. In fact, the higher principle is that they are reflecting the karma kanda, varnashram. They are reflecting the the activities that refer to pious activities, going to the heavenly planets, being a good person, the execution in society. All of these very many things people will see, oh, this is what it means to be a religious person. You know, have lots of kids, have some kids, but raise them well, send them to a good school, be a good family man, turn up to family events, do your role in society, turn up to the temple once every Sunday, every few Sundays maybe, do your donation, perform a yajna, be nice to the Brahmins, give charity. All of these things, people will have all sorts of ideas. And they'll say, oh, this is the essence of religious life. This is the essence of spiritual life. Or they might even say that this is spiritual life at all. But it is not. It is just good material existence. Oh, it's important that we take care of all of these many welfare activities. There's all these starving people on the street. We must feed them all. People will think this is some great religious activity. In fact, there's some bogus rascal teachers in history who are complete demons and have destroyed spirituality around the world. And it's very unfortunate that many people respect them, because anyone who really follows them, naturally being a follower, they will follow where they go. And that place is hell, no other place. So these rascal demons, they've proposed this nonsense idea that by feeding starving people, this is service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they'll say that Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a beggar on the road. The only real beggar is them, with their complete lack of knowledge. They are the true beggars. How can the Supreme Lord, who is filled with all opulences, be reduced to a beggar on the street? Our hearts should be soft to the suffering of beggars. By all means, we should not be hard-hearted. But this is merely moral activity. This is not spiritual activity. And so when Krishna grabs the rod that Mother Jashoda churns the yogurt with, he is calling for all these activities to cease. Not that a charity, good works, moral behaviors must end. No, no, no. But rather that the focus on these must go away. That one must no longer orient their life around karmic activities that are good. One must now orient their life around devotion to Krishna. Krishna is saying, cease all other activity and focus only on me. This is what it means when Krishna grabs. He is not saying, churn this and then feed me. Churn this and then give me your breast milk to Mother Jashoda. He's saying, stop the churning and then feed me the breast milk. And what does the breast milk represent? We already discussed this. The breast milk of Mother Jashoda is nothing but condensed, concentrated Vatsalya Prem, ecstatic love in the mood of a parent. This is how she is feeding Krishna with her bhakti. This is what this means. Cease all other activities. Not that we go to all sorts of different masters, all sorts of different purposes in life. If a person has many masters, in fact, Mahaprabhu says this in a different context. But he says if one rejects the Swami, referring to Sridhar Swami's commentary, Swami obviously can also refer to the husband. One becomes a prostitute. One is no better than a prostitute if one rejects the commentary of Sridhar Swami. In the same way, if one is trying to entertain all sorts of aspects of life, without the focal, central loyalty being on Krishna and devotional service, then this is merely the loose character. This is merely just like the behavior of a prostitute. But this is not the behavior that Krishna endorses. Again, Krishna holds onto the churning rod and he prevents it from being moved. And by preventing it to be moved, he is again making this point very clear. There is a further implication of why Krishna grabs the churning rod of Mother Jashoda. He grabs it, and this is less symbolic and more directly referring to the very nature of Krishna Lila. He does so that Mother Jashoda can be proud of how strong her son is becoming. She becomes very proud seeing her small little Damodar, her small little Gopal, grab the rod and prevent her from churning it. He is getting so strong, and seeing this, like any mother, she becomes proud. And her Vatsalya Prem, her ecstatic love in the mood of a parent becomes stronger and stronger and stronger upon seeing her son being able to hold the rod and preventing it from being moved. And because of this, again, her emotional moods built upon her spiritual position intensify. And therefore, she is more likely to feed Krishna, and the milk that she will feed him will be even more relishable. And so then what happened? Mother Jashoda, she set it all aside. All of these activities she set aside. And then what did she do? She embraced Krishna. And she took him and put him on her lap. And she looked at him, feeling great affection in her heart. And with her maternal affection reaching such a pinnacle point, already the breast milk was flowing, even before Krishna began to drink. However, as she was feeding Krishna, actually there is a very strong significance to Krishna's hunger. Because actually, if Krishna were to to drink this milk perpetually, he could actually go on forever. And Mother Jashoda, in the strength of her maternal love, would never cease in being able to provide it. This is almost paradoxical. There is an infinite hunger in Krishna for the devotion of his devotee. And there is an infinite desire to provide such devotion in the devotee's heart. The more that Krishna demands the devotion of the devotee, the more that the devotee's devotion intensifies, and therefore the more devotion they have available. As Krishna, there wouldn't be a point where Krishna would say, I have had enough. And there would never be a point where Mother Jashoda would say, I have no more to give. This is the elevated position of those ragatmik bhaktas. We can read of the nature of the ragatmik bhakta in, I think, 14th chapter of Nectar Devotion. We can hear about their elevated position. Prabhupada goes to lengths to justify their intense status. So, we can hear about the glories of the ragatmik devotees there. So, so like this was perpetually happening. However, in the milk pan, at one point, the milk started boiling over. And Mother Jashoda, she instantly became alerted to this. And setting aside her son, she went to take care of the milk. Even though Krishna, he was properly not satisfied. Unfortunately, the case of the matter is that Krishna never would be satisfied. But this is also, of course, the fortune. If Krishna were to be satisfied, then he would no longer be Krishna, because his infinite appetite for devotion would no longer be infinite, but its finite boundary wall would have been discovered. Now, we should not think that Mother Jashoda went to the milk boiling over because she thought she had a higher priority than pleasing Krishna. We should understand that she went to the milk that was boiling over because why was she in the first place producing this yogurt preparation? Why does Mother Jashoda do anything? Why does she do anything at all? And why then, for the exact same reason, why then did she make that yogurt? Everything she does is to please Krishna. And that yogurt in the first place was being made in order to please Krishna. Therefore, by her running away, she wasn't thinking, oh, I have some greater priority to make sure this milk is fine. I have some greater priority to make sure this milk doesn't get ruined. No, she was thinking, now this way, which I had intended today to specially please Krishna with, this thing will be destroyed. So quickly, let me fix it, and then let me return to this. But why did the milk boil over? We should also understand. We were discussing, remember, in the Dhammadarashtakam classes, that Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam. The earrings of Krishna, they sway. They sway and they move. But they don't just sway and move. Their swaying and moving is the actual act of kissing his cheeks. Because they are personalities as well. Actually, there doesn't exist a single thing in the spiritual domain that is not conscious. Every blade of grass, every branch, every tree, every rock, every single cloud, everything is a fully conscious, because it is all composed of transcendental internal energies. So everything is conscious. If it is the earrings are a personality, the flutes are personalities, and the milk in the pot is also a personality. And so there is a reason why the milk started boiling over. There are a few reasons given, actually. Some I've heard in my spiritual masters classes. Others are in Harisuri's, not Harisari Prabhu, Harisuri's Bhagavatam commentaries. So the first is that the milk, upon seeing Mother Yashoda feeding Krishna with her breast milk, the milk began to think, if Krishna is drinking Mother Yashoda's breast milk, Krishna will always be more satisfied than that, because that milk is coming from the greatest devotee. Krishna will never then drink me. How great and how worshipful is Mother Yashoda's breast milk. How could I ever compete with it? Now that Mother Yashoda is giving that to Krishna, never ever will Krishna drink me. And then what is the purpose of my life? What value does my life have? Mother Yashoda, she will never ever, she will never ever be able to be beaten by the quality of my milk. And therefore, because my life is worthless, because my life now has no aim, if Krishna will not drink me, I will dive into these fires and I will kill myself. The milk was attempting to commit suicide because it was thinking, there is no purpose to my existence if Krishna has this better milk alternative. In fact, the milk was having an existential crisis. It was thinking, what is the point of existing if Mother Yashoda's milk also exists? What is the point? My life can have no meaning. So thinking in this way, the milk decided to dive into the fire. Then, there is the other reason. And the other reason is that the milk thought, Krishna, what a great personality. What a great personality is this. In fact, it has been said that if one has darshan of Krishna, all the sufferings and struggles of their life in the material world are ended. And yet, the fires, because he's feeling the heat, the milk, at the bottom of the pot. The fires of material life, they're still going. I'm still being boiled in this ocean of samsara. I'm still being, I'm still immersed in this heat. Even after having Krishna's darshan. If Krishna could not give me liberation, if Krishna could not save me from these sufferings, if the darshan of Krishna could not be my redemption, then what hope do I have? So again, the milk also for this reason thought, I will commit suicide. Because if there is no salvation from my sufferings, even after having darshan of Krishna, then there is no salvation for me at all. This is very, very intense. But this is how the milk was feeling. And so it dived into the fire. Diving into the fire then, Mother Yashoda, she ran. And running, she went with the intent, of course, that the preparation made for Krishna be not ruined. So, after doing this, she went. And Krishna, he was actually, to be honest, rather upset at this. Because he was thinking, you know what, I haven't had enough of this milk. And so what happened? Sanjata kopaspuritarunadharam sandasya dadbhir dadhi manthabhajanam bhitvam rishashrur drishad ashmanaraho jaghasa hayangavam antaram gataha. He was very angry. He was filled with anger. And what did he do? He bit down onto his bottom lip with his teeth. And with crocodile tears flowing out of his eyes, he smashed the container of yogurt with a piece of stone. He then entered into a room and he began to take all of the butter and he began to eat it. He was expressing, if I'm not going to get this milk, I'm going to get fed in some other way. I'm not going to put up for this. This is almost like a workers' union protest. We expect to be treated nicer. We expect to be treated nicer. We want better working conditions. This is what Krishna was saying by going for the butter. So, like this, Krishna was thinking, and he was going and he was eating all of these things. Actually, Krishna, he bit his bottom lip because the word lip in Sanskrit, it sounds similar to earth. It sounds similar to earth, and the earth is what little children normally hit when they're angry. I'm sure we've seen little children get angry. They go, ah, and then they hit the floor like this. And they beat the floor. They beat the ground. But how can that Krishna, who says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata bhyutthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. How can that Krishna, who says, Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya chadushkritam, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. How can that Krishna then beat the earth? Bhudevi prayed to Krishna for Krishna to advent onto the planet. She prayed for this. And Krishna so mercifully came. He has so much mercy for Bhudevi. So how then can that Krishna, no, he cannot. He cannot. He cannot attack or harm this earth in any way whatsoever. And therefore, what he does instead is the lower lip in Sanskrit is a very similar word. I think it's, now I'm forgetting the word. I had it thought, dhara, I think it is. It can mean earth, but it can also mean the lower lip. And so instead of beating the earth, which he cannot do, he instead bites his lip like that. So Krishna, he has expressed his anger like this. However, Mother Yashoda, after preparing this milk, after making sure it is not burnt, she returned to the churning spot. But then what did she see? She saw that the container of yogurt, which she had been making, was broken. Terrible. And Krishna, he was no longer there. And so she put one and one together and she realized, oh no, Krishna has broken this, that naughty boy. And so Mother Yashoda, she said without a single doubt in her mind, I'm going to find this naughty boy and I'm going to teach him a lesson. Krishna, however, at this moment, he was sitting on a wooden mortar, the ones that are used to grind spices. But it was upside down, it was flipped around. And while sitting on it, he was giving milk like dairy products, like yogurt and ghee and all of these things to all of the monkeys. However, he wasn't giving us freely. He knew his goods are stolen goods. And so, looking around, he was always seeing his Mother Yashoda after me. Am I going to get caught? Am I going to get caught? Is she onto me? Is she onto me? Like this, constant worry was in his heart. Constant fear. I'm going to get caught. What if they're onto me? What if she's behind me? What if she's able to see? These things might seem confusing for us to hear. What if she can see me? What? This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And stealing butter, getting hungry? Krishna, in just an expansion, in his Vishnu forms, has so many unlimited goddesses of fortune who are constantly worshipping him. And the goddess of fortune, as the name would indicate, is not lacking much. There's not much that the goddess of fortune is lacking. Not much at all. So he has access to so much. And yet, that personality has access to all of that. He's getting hungry and angry and is trying to steal butter. And yogurt, and is eating it, and is giving it out. How can we understand this? That Krishna, who establishes dharma. Dharma is established in all the Vedas, and Vedas are nothing but the sound of the breathing of Mahavishnu. That same Krishna is here now stealing butter and giving it out to the monkeys. And even more so, Yamaraj. In the 6th canto of Bhagavatam, we hear Yamaraj, he tells his Yamadutas that I have a noose for every single person on earth. Every person in existence, there is a noose I have for them by which I bring them down into my domain. But there is only one type of person that I do not even dare to touch, and none of you should bring to my court, and that is the Vaishnav. The devotee is untouched by me. What to speak of the devotees? What of that Supreme Personality of Godhead himself? Even Yamaraj is forget about not being afraid of Yamaraj. Yamaraj is afraid to capture Krishna, to punish Krishna. And yet this same Krishna, he's looking out in fear in case he gets caught. These things can be a little bewildering. They can be a bit confusing for us. We might not be clear on what they mean. But actually, the reason why we are struggling is we are approaching with logic. We are trying to understand things through the means of logical reasoning. We are trying to understand things. We're trying to grasp everything. We're trying to understand everything through our minds. But no, this is not the way by which things are understood. Maybe some things are understood like this. We can understand through meditation, through all sorts of things. We can understand all sorts of things, but we cannot understand Krishna. We cannot understand Krishna and Vraj especially. Krishna and Vraj is very, very hard to understand. In fact, he can only be understood, he can only be approached through bhakti. We were saying before, bhaktiyaiva baddham. Krishna is bound by bhakti alone. But he is also truly understood only through bhakti. Not that by devotional service it all logically makes sense. But it almost becomes intuitive. It is a whole other realm of understanding. It is not that Krishna or the devotees or devotional service is against logic. No. Far from it. It is that the devotees understand that logic is only a runway. You know, when planes fly, they have a runway. And they do not fully fly yet, but they need the runway in order to have a lift-off to fly. Logic is like that for devotion. It is a runway. And so, it is not that it prevents devotion from existing. In fact, being reasonable, being a rational devotee is very preferable. But at one point, devotion lifts up and stops running on the ground and is flying in the air of spiritual existence, of understanding of Krishna. And this is a whole other category than knowledge and mental understanding as we are used to hearing it. So all of these things, very, very hard to understand, very hard to reconcile. And sometimes people may ask, how can we understand this? And the solution is nothing else than chant your rounds, Prabhu, or Mataji. Mataji or Prabhu, please chant your rounds, and then you will be able to understand such immensely complicated things. So this is the nature of such apparently paradoxical elements of Krishna's pastime. But at this point, Krishna, while looking around, he was looking and looking, very, very afraid. And Mother Yashoda, she was very, very carefully approaching him from behind. And then what happened at this moment? Tamata yashtim prasamiksha sattvaras tatto varuhyapasasara bhitavat gopanya vadhavan yamapa yoginam kshamam praveshtum tapah seritam manaha. Krishna saw his mother armed and ready, and as fast as he could. Remember? Yashoda bhiyo lukaladha dhavamanam. As fast as he can, he is running. And he quickly ran off the mortar and fled as quick as he could. And here we understand something very elevated and very deep. There are so many yogis who tried to capture Krishna through their meditative processes. There are many who try to realize the Paramatma in this way. And there are many who attempt to merge into the Brahman through all sorts of austerities and tapasya. But they do not ever reach this destination. Through all of these means, the yogis, they are not able to realize Paramatma. They are not able to achieve Brahman. But Mother Yashoda, just by thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just to be her son, she is able to capture Bhagavan. This is the very elevated position, as we were discussing. Twadiyodharayatha vishvasya dhamme. The devotees are the most powerful beings in all existence, and we should not think it exaggeration. So now running, Mother Yashoda, she was running, but she was, what to say, not healthy, not very healthy, but she was definitely not very skinny. And so it was a little hard for her to keep up with Krishna. But still she tried her best, and she was running and running and running. And her hair, which was so nicely tied up into a nice hairstyle, it started to loosen up. And the flowers in her hair, they were falling and falling and falling, almost like breadcrumbs behind her. However, even though it was a struggle for her, that which only the great yogis, which even the great yogis cannot capture after millions of lifetimes of meditation, which they cannot capture even the effulgence of after millions of lifetimes of meditation. That same personality, who they are not able to have darshan of even the edge of the toenail of, after so many millennia of lifetimes meditating, that same personality was grasped by Mother Yashoda. And so then, being caught, Krishna, he became more and more distressed, more and more distressed, more and more distressed. And as he became more and more worried and more sad, and more afraid, he said, he almost bowing, he said, "Please, Mother, please forgive me. I am a great offender. I have committed this Vaishnav aparad of breaking this pot." But Mother Jashoda, what to say? She is so much filled with maternal love. She could not think to chastise him so severely. The tears going over his face and rubbing around all of the ointment. How could she think to chastise him heavily? How could she think to do that? No, her maternal love was too strong. She would not be capable of doing so. So instead, she put the stick away that she was using to chase Krishna. And she decided to chastise him very softly. And how did she decide to do this? She decided to tie Krishna up. So, getting some rope, she decided to do this. But when she found something a little funny. What did she find? Tadama badhyam manasya svarbhakasya kritagasaha dvangulonam abhuttena sandadhe nyachcha gopika. Then Mother Jashoda, while trying to bind Krishna up, she found that the rope was short, always by the distance of 2 fingers. And the new rope, no matter how long she added to it, it would always be 2 fingers short, always be 2 fingers short. But still she kept on going and going and going and going. And all of the other gopis, the older ones, the aunties, if you will, they were all smiling and enjoying. And Mother Jashoda, even she was enjoying this labor. But all of them were wondering, how is this possible? But eventually, at one point, a great transcendental truth was revealed. And this great transcendental truth that was revealed was that Evam sandirshita hyanga harina bhritya vashyata svavashena pi krishnena yasyedam sheshwaram vashe. All of the demigods, even the great ones like Shiva, Brahma, and Indra, they are fully under the authority and the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Bhagavan Krishna. And yet Krishna, he has one very significant attribute. What is that? Bhaktya eva baddham. He is always being able to be controlled by his devotees. And so all of these personalities who are so great, they cannot do this. Not even Lakshmi Devi was able to receive so much mercy as Mother Jashoda, who tied Krishna up. And so he allowed himself to be tied. Now one may wonder a few things. One may say, okay, yes, this makes a lot of sense. I understand. Krishna does not allow anyone to just tie him up like that. It is his devotees. But if it is his devotees, Mother Jashoda is always his devotee. Why did she wait so long? Why did Krishna wait so long to allow her? And we find the evidence for this in a few texts. First, we must understand the philosophy. Na chantar na bahir yasya na purvam napi chaparam purvaparam bahishchantar jagato yo jagatchayaha tam matvatmajam avyaktam martya lingam adhokshajam Gopi ko lukhale damna babandha prakritim yatha. This Krishna, this Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not have a beginning, nor does he have an end. He has no outside, no inside. There is no beginning, there is no front, and there is no behind. Krishna, he is always everywhere. He is Vishnu, all-pervading. He is outside of the time factor, and therefore past, present, and future, they're all the same to him. He exists in his body of Satchit Ananda, his Satchit Ananda Vigraha, eternally, all the time. He is free from any distinction of cause and effect, even though he is the cause and effect of everything. This unmanifested personality, who's a dhokshaja, beyond the senses, is in the form of a child. And Mother Jashoda, thinking him to be her child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. We must understand this. He is having all these grand potencies. And yet, what happened? In text 18 we hear, Svamatuhu, my own mother, Krishna is thinking. But what is the whole thing? Svamatu svinna gatraya visrasta kabara srajaha drishtva parishramam krishnaha kripaya sid svabandhane. The reason why Krishna allowed himself to be bound up is because he saw Mother Jashoda's hard labor as she was working to tie Krishna up. Her body covered with sweat, so much effort, all of the flowers, even the comb in her hair, they were all falling out. They were all falling out. And she was becoming very much fatigued. And this was becoming very obvious. And being very obvious, Krishna, kripayasit svabandhane. He agreed to have himself bound because he began to become filled with mercy. My spiritual master, His Holiness Sri Srimad Radha Govinda Das Goswami Maharaj, he says that actually, as Mother Jashoda was trying to tie this rope, two fingers, every time, every single potency that Krishna has was fighting against her, trying to prevent her from being able to bind Krishna up. Every single potency that was available, he was going and trying to, they were all coming into action. The potency, the inconceivable potency is how, no matter how many ropes were being added, Krishna was not being able to be bound. Krishna's potencies to do all sorts of things were all being enacted in order to prevent Mother Jashoda. They all came in to protect Krishna, to prevent Krishna from being bound up. All of the Shaktis, all of the energies, everything in all of reality was pouring in at this moment. Every single potency, every single power that exists in the whole universe was pouring in. We can sometimes in the sweetness forget the cosmic grandness of what is happening. The source of all reality is being bound. And so all reality is folding in to prevent this event from happening. And so Mother Jashoda, she's competing, not with Krishna, obviously with Krishna, but with all reality itself. All potency that does exist or could exist, because any potency that could exist does exist in Krishna. All of these potencies coming together, converging in order to resist Mother Jashoda's attempts to tie up Krishna. And yet, Namaste stu damne spura dipti damne tvadiyodarayatha vishvasya dhamne. The devotees can conquer all of the universes. It is not at all out of their capabilities. And how do they do it? What does this text say? Kripaya sid svabandhane. Because of the mercy, because of the mercy potency, all of these Shaktis were there, but Krishna saw his mother exert herself. He saw his devotee so filled with love for him, expressing that love, and Krishna's heart melted. And then came a Shakti which overrides all the other Shaktis. A potency which ruled over all of them. The Kripa Shakti, the Karuna Shakti, the Shakti of mercy. And so when this potency came out, all the other ones were ignored. All of the other ones were ruled over. And Krishna allowed himself to be bound. All of reality was conquered by the mercy of Krishna. We should understand. This is the intensity of this is the intensity of the Karuna Shakti. This is why we are very fortunate if we can somehow receive the mercy of the Lord, and why the mercy of the Lord is so worshipful. We should always strive to attain it. And we should strive. We should strive as strongly as Mother Jashoda did. We should work with such resolve, such intensity. How much exertion is Mother Jashoda doing? Tying Krishna up, sweat coming down like this. It is no easy thing. But we should strive with this intensity, that we may maybe melt the heart, if not of Krishna, hopefully of the Vaishnav, who will then give us Krishna's mercy. Hopefully we can do this. Anyways, I will continue that thought on Monday, and then on Monday, hopefully we will conclude this transcendental pastime. Shri Shri Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Shukadev Goswami ki jai, Shri Parikshit Maharaj ki jai, Shri Shri Jashodama ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Damodar ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Kartik Masa ki jai, Shri La Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Haribo, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.